So the final piece of the heads-up display puzzle is inside the Island Scripts folder. There's a HUD script, an HUD, and the HUD script. What that's going to do is that's going to provide GUI text or real-time feedback of two variables, and that is health and points. Now, if you remember way back when, with the first-person controller, we attached the player status script, and the player status script is tracking health and points. Currently, right now, we run around and we pick up our objects. Our pickup script has been assigned to allow for not only picking up objects, but we have the ability to assign points. And if I select my game object cube, and I look at my pickup script that's been attached to it, we have a points variable, and you can key in whatever value that you want there. The player status script is tracking the number of points that we're picking up. Now, we don't have any direct feedback right now to track that, even though that data is there. And this HUD script is going to allow us to see what the results of our score and our health is. And kind of the beauty of JavaScript and scripting inside Unity is that as long as this script is invoked, in this case, we'll get some feedback on screen. And so we can really attach this to any active game object. It does make sense to attach it to an object that that has an appropriate context. So maybe it's the first-person controller or the collection HUD. But the concept here is that when this game object is invoked, it runs whatever script is attached to it. And I inadvertently attached that twice, so let me remove the component. I have the HUD script attached to my collection HUD. And so now when I hit the play button, you'll see way up in the top left-hand corner, I get a series of zeros, little white zeros. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause that for a moment and just point out that the HUD script, if I just double-click on this HUD script, this script is giving us feedback for health and points. Again, that's stored back in the player status, but by default, their position is 0, 0. So it's really anchored in the top left-hand corner. And what we can do is there's a couple of different ways to experiment with these values. And the easiest thing to do is just kind of plug in a value for the X position. Now, X is going to push it horizontally, push this value horizontally off the edge of the screen. So I'll just type in 50. I'll do the same thing for the X position of points. The Y position is going to cause it to move vertically, and so I'm just going to type in maybe 20 for the Y position of health, and maybe I'll double that for the Y position of points. So health will show up on the top, points will show up on the bottom. I'll hit play, and now I'm getting these values stacked on top of each other. So the 100 right now is representing our health. That bottom number is representing our points, and if I run over here and pick up one of these cubes, I get an update to the points. Now I got 15 points, and if you remember way back when I was creating two different cubes, I assigned two different values. So that second cube that I grabbed had 10 points. The first cube was set to 15, and again, I can modify those values just by selecting the game object and going to the points variable. This assumes that I have the pickup script attached to that game object, and so I can go here and make these point values equivalent. So 10, I pick up a second one and it gives me 20. So I have control to kind of push these heads-up display items around screen. So just to kind of see this through to its logical conclusion, I'm going to go back and double-click on my heads-up display. Currently, you'll notice that when I play my simulation, it's just giving me the values up on screen, but what I can do is I can annotate those. I'll just jump back into my heads-up display, and if I go down here and I find the function on GUI, this is all the stuff where it's actually giving me the output. So it says GUI Label, it's creating a label, it's a rectangle label, and it's describing some of the values here. I can go into this health string, and what I'll do is in quotations, I'll just type in health, I'll close my quotations, and then I'll add a plus sign after it. And what that's saying is write the word health plus the variable of health. So this is just the word health with capital letters, and in fact I'll even include a semicolon in there, or excuse me, a colon. Don't want to use a semicolon because JavaScript will think we're ending a line there. And then write the value of health. I'll do the. I'll leave that. I'm just going to save it. I'll go back and I'll run this script again. And now in the top left-hand corner, I get the text that says health, along with the value of 100. I'll do the same thing with points. So I'll go back to my heads-up display, and I'll type in points, colon, parentheses, quotes, and along with the plus sign. And now if I save this, I'll be able to hit play, and in my heads-up display now I'm getting a little bit more feedback there. That's the real quick crash course with the heads-up display object. Now we're getting all the feedback that we need. Obviously, we need to reposition some of these things. You can read a little bit about the GUI text in the Unity manual if you want to modify that in terms of the color and the font. There's a lot that you can do. Finally, what I want to do is in the next presentation, I want to talk to you about triggering different kinds of events. And that'll bring us to the conclusion with the nuts and bolts of the technical requirements for this final island project. And then at that point, it's just a matter of kind of fine-tuning the story, fine-tuning the assets that you've created inside your island, what kinds of things you want to pick up, and what kind of events you want to trigger. And we'll conclude that in the next presentation.